Good morning. Welcome to our commission meeting for the 19th of February. This is our last February scheduled meeting, but there could be others pending necessariness. We're going to start off with Pledge Allegiance. Betty, pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's one thing that goes into the same place.
Yeah.
Kind of like the national anthem.
There's times that I want to call you Harvey when I look at something and see your name, and then I said, well, I've always known him as Eddie, so just call you in time for dinner, right?
We're just glad you're feeling better.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're gonna be up there. Yeah.
Okay. Today is our last day of Board of Equalization and Review. Eddie, do we have anybody?
The fellow from the government supposed to be on Zoom, and then the guy, Imperial Congress with Drew.
Yeah.
Numbers.
Does anybody know what the number's name is?
His last name's Ryan.
I don't see anybody with a.
I'm here on Zoom. I can hear you.
Okay. We didn't know which, we were trying to know who to unmute.
You're all doing a good job.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Commissioner. Great to be with you. I guess I'm right off the top of the venue here this morning. I appreciate everybody's time. It's between the ice and the snow and the floods, it's hard to get together on anything. But I wanted to bring our situation up in Montgomery real quick. I know I've talked with a couple of you, and I've talked with Mr. Young and some other folks about our situation with the what many of you may remember is the old Economic Development Corporation building in Montgomery that was built in the late 90s and finished by the year 2000. Of course, the history of that building there is very problematic. It was very promising at one point with Tech and Bridge Valley as major tenants. And over the years, it's like the town. It's had its ups and downs. So just to give you a little bit background of who I am, I moved here in 2020, and we started my wife and I had started a school with a group out of Florida who has successfully set up schools in Arizona, Florida, and we're the first of its kind in West Virginia. And so we were looking for a home, and obviously the opportunity had come up through EDC and Dr. Kennedy, who is the CEO of the Economic Development Corporation. And so they had kept that building and that group going on life support with one or two tenants. It made sense for us as we were growing our school. We're a public-private pass-through. We're a non-for-profit school, and we currently have 27 children that are enrolled between 6 and 12, and we are expanding rapidly as other schools in the area are consolidating and shutting down. And so we're one of the few last middle and high schools in the area. 3 years, we've had a lot of good success. But we purchased the building, a group called FRE, which is the real estate arm, which is a for-profit, and the school is a non-for-profit. It's a subsidiary of My Life, My Power, which is a 501c3. I had sent that information along to the board there. So anyway, very promising. We get in inspections, engineering, and we realize that we don't have external walls. And it's a first for me. It was the old the whole complex was an old shopping center. Many of you may remember, and we discovered this with a contiguous building referred to as the Pink Building that was demolished. And so the original architectural was certainly out of code. It was missed, it was passed. And we understand we've got the same situation on the western wall. And with that being said, we've probably got a $500,000 to $1 million fix on top of the improvements that we're going to have to make to have this tenant ready. Now, this doesn't jeopardize our school operation. We can still expand enrollment. Structurally, we're okay, but at some point, right now, we're in the process of looking at grants and donations to, and I'm working with Mayor Ingram and the folks of the city of Montgomery to solve the situation. And so, yeah, we're in a bind, and nobody saw it. It's really nobody's fault. The city of Montgomery. There were some things that passed 20 years ago. It was part of a USDA. I think the water and the housing authority were involved in the original loan. But our engineer reports basically indicate, two separate ones, that this building never should have been, granted approval for occupancy, and massive mistake. And we inherited it, so we being FRE had finalized the purchase of it last summer, and we've had it appraised, reassessed, and so forth. That's been adapted. But we've got a major fix, and we got to keep the school and the building alive. And quite simply, I'm appealing to the commission today to consider a freeze or some type of property tax. We haven't been assessed, or we haven't been billed yet, but we will be billed for the following year. And what I'm asking for, in lieu of for us trying to raise money to keep the building alive and the school alive, some sort of relief. If you are legally allowed to do this, I understand that there are protocols that have to be made at your level to make sure that everything is being followed by the letter. But quite simply, it's an appeal from our group. While we figure out a fix, and we're rapidly addressing every type of opportunity to do so, we need help, and that's the reason why I'm on with you today on Zoom.
Eddie?
Well, I reduced the value of that property by as much as I felt like I could. The original value of all the building, and there's like, the building sits on multiple lots. And then there are some vacant lots that off to the,
Which building is he talking about down there?
it's the old, where old GC Murphy.
The old
used to
Murphy's?
be.
That's what I thought when he
Yeah.
said shopping center.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's Murphy's, and is he talking about that one that was knocked down, like there on the corner?
yeah, the one on the corner there
Okay.
belongs to Lopez.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. So I knocked the value, the total value, from, 2,288,600 down to 384,400. That's appraised value.
wait, what's that, again, 2 million, like
2
2.8 million to
Right.
roughly to,
So when that thing was first built, it was
yeah, it was something back there.
it was very nice. So, but anyway, I've reduced it as far as I'm comfortable reducing it. So that's, now the county commission here, you can override my values, and if you do, that's your choice. I have no problem with that. But you do not have, by West Virginia code, you cannot change the classification of that property or the taxability of that property. Section, code 11.3.27, basically says, provided however that the provisions of this section shall not be construed as giving county commission jurisdiction to consider any question involving the classification or taxability of property which has been the subject matter of an appeal.
What did you reduce it to?
384,400.
Mr. Young, if I may insert myself, not to interrupt you, I appreciate talking to you as well through this. I just wanted to also let the board know that this property was on the market for a couple of years for 300,000. We eventually had purchased the property for 309,000, and $333, I believe exactly. And then we had a subsequent appraisal, and the appraisal had come back, which I shared with Mr. Young, for 355,000.
So we are, in the assessor's office, we are bound by state code to be at market value 10% high or 10% low. So we are in our range. That's why I'm, I'm good with the value I've got on it. But that's, you guys can override my value if you choose to do so.
And one more, and I completely agree with you, Mr. Young, on your assessments. But one thing I wanted to say is that the agreed upon price obviously was before that we discovered that we don't have walls, which significantly impacts the market price for any buyer or any tenants for that matter that are considering coming in.
What's the date on the appraisal you provided the assessor?
Mr. Young, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe it is October or November of last year.
That sounds about right. I don't have that with me, but
So it's fairly current then. That's really what I was getting at.
Yes.
And actually, if you were 10%, it should have been appraised like at 390,500. So
He said
you're
that,
actually
yes.
below that amount.
yeah. That would be the high amount.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
Is this the only property? I thought there was more than one, or is this it?
there's more than one,
it's it.
but that value that I gave you, the 384, that includes all of them.
That's all of the properties. Okay. All of it.
Yeah, that includes the parking lots, which were multiple parcels at one time. And I think that was recorded in. There was a couple of adjustments had made with the county on prior mistakes on the deed. But yes, it does encompass. I believe it was a total of 6 parcels into one transaction.
Mr. Young, have you physically laid eyes on this building and recently?
I haven't looked at the building since they tore the pink building down, which would be, if you're facing the building on the street, it would be on the left side of the building that they tore down. But I haven't, that just happened pretty recently, that building was demolished. I think they started on it and then they found out that it was a common wall, and then they stopped, and then they came up with a way to get it down.
Mark, is this the first year you guys are paying taxes on this building?
I believe that we will be probably hit with a bill this year for next. Is that correct, Mr. Young?
You'll get a bill in July for 25. That'll be the first year it was taxable. Because it was.
And to answer your question, Commissioner, I do have pictures of the wall that we boarded it up and have plastic along it, but it's literally like sheetrock that's exposed to the elements, and so far so good on the eastern side of the wall. And obviously we have a lot of pictures from demolition and stuff, but yeah, they did a good job making sure that there wasn't any extensial damage to the wall as they were bringing down the pink building. They had to bring it down hand by hand. In fact, this situation had delayed demolition for a couple of months when Mayor Ingram had discovered it. So but anyway, the entire town is, bottom line, entire town is trying to work together to keep the building alive, and simultaneously we're taking in more students, and so we do have some renovations. I understand we have to do everything within the letter. The hindsight 2020, obviously, if we knew that there were any walls, we never would have purchased the building, unfortunately. But it is the problem now that we have to deal with. So anyway, I do have some pictures, and I could forward those along as well.
What exactly are you requesting that we do, Mr. Ryan?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you can do. I think I'm not sure if you have the power to freeze to give us a couple of years of latitude. So not to confuse everybody, but the owner of the building basically is within the same is under the same parent of the ownership of the school. And for legal reasons, it was separated into a different entity as a for-profit. If we could have, I guess, filed this as a non-for-profit and had an exemption, and we wouldn't go through this. But legally, our attorneys felt that that there should be some separation between, for liability reasons, and it makes perfect sense between the two entities. So the anchor entity is a non-for-profit. The entity is a real estate. It's basically its sole operation is to manage the building itself. And so if it were exempt, we certainly wouldn't even be having this conversation. So I think what I'm requesting is literally whatever you could do, if possible, for some property tax relief within your statutes.
As a lawyer, and we've got two other ones here in the room with me who are smarter than I am about this, but it seems to me like they could have structured it as another separate nonprofit and still done the separation you're talking about, and you could have benefited from the tax exempt status. It seems to me like there was a business plan related motivation to make that a for-profit entity. I mean, does that make sense?
Are you?
Anything
Well,
like
yeah, I mean,
Mm.
just the separation was created for liability reasons. The anchor tenant is obviously the school. They could have done that, but of course, with the hindsight's 2020, that was advised to do it. I guess they could still do it if they chose to do so as a non-for-profit, but also they wanted to leave themselves open for a potential business mix or anybody that could solidify the building to make sure one that it debt services and it breaks even, which is we're a far cry away from that, just with utilities and repairs. But I understand that that's a business decision. Um, and I suppose that they could still do that. I don't know if they would have some challenges doing so, but it is what it is. And of course, the learning about the external walls was well after the fact.
Eddie, you wanted,
Yeah, I've been doing this job for a long time and, sat through a lot of county commission, hearings, and my opinion on this is the only thing you guys can do is change value. You can't, you can't make them non-taxable or anything.
Oh, no, I agree with you there. I'm just trying to think of when their lawyers structured that agreement, they made that a for-profit for a reason. If liability was the only concern, they could have done a separate nonprofit.
Yes.
They didn't have to do a for-profit. So they had a business scheme or have a business scheme that is not clear to us right now in structuring it that way. And so I'm not saying that we could change or should change or, recommending they change. I'm just saying that when I'm making the consideration of whether these folks should be eligible for that reduction, I have that in my mind because right now it is what it is. They could have structured it differently and didn't. So I'm just gonna, unless you guys have other comments, like my position is, that I think the assessor did everything he could for that business, given all things considered, and it is still a for-profit entity, and I do not think it should be reduced. I trust his judgment. He's done this job a long time. And, I'm not willing to vote to override him.
I will, tend to agree with you, Allison, and for whatever reason, they structured it the way they did. They had the opportunity to restructure before, and they chose not to. And I think you're correct. I think there's something we don't know right now, or maybe they made a mistake, but that's not our problem. And as much as we would like to help, we are bound by code that we, have to do our jobs.
Right.
Now, that said, I will say, thank you, Mr. Ryan, for bringing that school to Montgomery. I grew up there and I know how important that was for Mayor Ingram, and I hope that you guys are able to, get your ducks in a row. And if there are other ways we might be able to help, feel free to come back before us with a comprehensive plan about that. And we may be open to that. But for now, I'm going to move that we deny this request for the reasons I already stated.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I add one
Yeah.
more thing? Okay. So the state changed the process a few years back. So it used to be, you come to the county commission, you don't get what you want, you go to circuit court. If you choose to go that route. There is now another thing called the Office of Tax Appeals, OTA. And this gentleman can apply through them. Now, what would happen there is the Office of Tax Appeals will hear this case, and if they decide that they want to reduce the value, then there would be an exoneration after the tax ticket comes out.
Well, let's-
So that's gonna happen after the
Just-
close.
I appreciate that. Let's
Just to clarify, when you say apply to, what you mean is appeal.
appeal our
Appeal our
decision. So did you hear that, Mr. Ryan? You do have appeal rights through, through which,
Yes,
um,
yes, I understand. I wanted to make a couple of things. Allison, I
you write up
appreciate,
our findings on this and get it to the entity that is going to be making a decision on it. So they know what our reasoning was, please.
thank you very much. I was going to say in terms of the structure, very straightforward. If somebody sues the school, something happens, there's got to be a separation there. That was literally the primary reason for why they structured it. It's very similar in most commercial situations, being involved in commercial real estate. But no, I appreciate the reasoning, and I appreciate, obviously, we have to follow the statutes. We could look at the appeal process, and certainly appreciate the commission's time this morning.
Thank you. Take care down there.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have the second gentleman on?
Did we have another?
No, that
was it. I think
that was it?
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, the Board of Equalizations, I'll make a motion to adjourn Sunny Die.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Looks like we're at Eddie's late.
I love when you speak Latin, John.
Yeah, that's it.
Too bad we don't have Jim Keenan in here to correct us.
Have exonerations,
Thank you, sir.
and there's 2 refunds generated by, I think, last week's exonerations.
And you know your budget's on.
Yeah, I mean, my budget's probably the easiest one you have.
Yeah, that's what I was grateful that
It's
that you were on today, because I knew it would go quicker.
salaries and benefits. All there is to a couple subscriptions for.
Well, I move that we approve the exonerations as presented by the assessor.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do a motion for those.
I'll make a motion that we approve the what? Yeah, the refund. I looked
Okay.
at the refund from last, it was last meeting.
I think, yeah,
It should
what
be
happened
here
was we
whenever
did
you sign.
exonerations, but somebody came in and paid
I
them.
don't know how to read them.
Right.
So we had to
Pretty cut,
create a
right.
refund.
Yeah, just a refund.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I got one more thing here, on one of the prior meetings we had, you were talking about tax rates, so I have a letter that I had already prepared, I'm gonna read this to you, and then I'll give it to you, and, I have,
Can we do the letter on a different agenda where we notice it? Cause I would like that to be noticed, though, if anybody wanted to tune in and hear it, they could.
I don't know, how you guys had it scheduled.
No, I mean, that's not part.
We didn't have it
You don't
scheduled on
want
the
to read
agenda.
it as part of his budget presentation.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it as part of your budget presentation.
Okay.
I was just worried it hadn't been noticed.
That's fine.
Excuse me.
But it's part of his budget presentation, so he's can do his budget presentation.
Yeah, you're on there to do your
Right
budget.
now.
Do you have it with you? Do you want my copy to use?
I don't make it.
Borrow
So
my.
basically, my budget, like I said before, is strictly salaries, benefits, and a couple fees that we pay out to like the association counties for membership. That's my budget. I asked for a raise for employees, and if you can give that, we certainly appreciate it.
So Eddie, I'm gonna ask you the same thing I'm gonna ask everybody. People that's asking for a raise, we know that PEIA has a 15% increase. Would they rather us give them a raise and them pay for the increase in PEIA? Or have the commission pay for the increase in PEIA and
Yeah, the employees did that. Yeah, that was for me, and I mean, if you guys choose to pick up the tab for the insurance, I'm sure that could be, it's probably a little more money, but if that's the case where they're gonna get more money, but then they gotta pay out what for insurance, I mean.
The insurance will cost more than the raise.
yeah. That's what we're finding out.
That's the
Okay.
unfortunate reality between the jail bill going up and because of the statute and the PEIA increase. That's,
Right.
what'd you say it was, 16-18%?
16%.
16%. Just
Would exceed what would you ask for raises? So I mean, it's gonna come whether, it's gonna be one way or the other.
So I think I had asked $1,000 per person, so.
It's pretty nominal.
That's how you guys choose to handle that, that's fine with me.
Okay, well, I'm just asking.
All right.
You can hit that letter now.
Okay, here's your letter. This is regarding the 2025 levy rate. And it's addressed to Fayette County Commission President John Redmond. Hope this message finds you well. I would like to take this opportunity to express some concerns regarding property valuations and levy rates in Fayette County. As per West Virginia State Code 11-1A1, county assessors are required to value property at market value. Market values is defined as the amount of property to sell for in the open market. The state monitors each county annually to ensure compliance with this standard. If the county is found to be out of compliance, a letter is sent to the county commission and the county boards of education notifying them of an issue. And basically that letter says your assessor is not doing his job. If the county remains out of compliance for 3 consecutive years, the state may take over the assessor's office, making adjustments to property values that they see fit. In such a case, the assessor could face consequences such as dismissal, fines, and potential imprisonment. I mention this to highlight the challenges that come with property valuation in Fayette County. Particularly in the wake of a dramatic increase in property values since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, our county has never become a national park, which further complicates the task of assessing property values. Despite these challenges, I continue diligently to ensure compliance with the state requirements and avoid any repercussions for our county. However, I would also like to address another important issue. Fayette County currently has the second highest levy rates in the state. That is the second highest. As you know, levy rates are set by the county commission, boards of education, and municipality. Given this, I respectfully request that the county the county, municipalities, and the Board of Education consider reducing the levy rates even if just slightly. A small reduction in both the regular and excess levies would provide significant relief to the taxpayers of our county. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. And I look forward to your response and hope we can work together to find a reasonable solution. There's the letter. Okay, and I have a little attachment that goes with it here. This was provided to me by the West Virginia State Auditor's Office. It is a breakdown county by county of levy rates. So I didn't pull this out of the air. We are the second highest. There's one county that is a little bit higher than us on their levy rate.
That's on our excess levy and our education levy, right? And then our regular
That's-
tax rates are pretty much,
That's total levy, the total levy rates, everything added together. The Board of Education regular, Board of Education, excess
Excess.
levy, the county regular, the county excess, and then when you get into the corporations regular levy and their excess levies, of course, the state has just a little tiny portion of that.
I had pulled down the breakdown, and in doing so, it looks like we are pretty much par with just about every other county on our regular levy rate, but our excess levies, the education and the fire, law enforcement, library are the ones that are extraordinary, that
Everything's maxed out.
that when they're together, yeah, right, and we are maxed, but we're not, but every other county but one is maxed from what she pulled county by county. But with the PEIA increase that I mentioned and the jail bill increase that we have no control over, or very little control over, I'll say. I feel like, at least in my opinion right now, the regular levy rate needs to stay where it is until we can figure out what the fallout of that's going to be, if we have enough revenue to compensate for that. But I've said over and over that I think we're collecting too much in our excess levies, and I agree with education. I don't like how that money's being spent. I have a lot of issues with that, so.
Well, I just felt like, if you look at a property and, there's counties that don't have excess levies, and that's neither here nor there, but. The issue with that is, you have the same value property in Fayette County and the same value property in a adjoining county, their taxes are gonna be less. So the only thing I have to do with the tax rates is, once they're approved by the state auditor, I key those things in and then the computer adds them all up, and that's what shows up on the tax ticket. So I just wanted to give you this information and you guys.
No, I'm glad you did, because if you hadn't brought that up, Ruth wouldn't have, gotten us the details. And that is something that, John had said at the beginning, and I know that I've been saying for a while about the excess tax. But that's a reason we build in the ability to reduce that excess tax in the levy this time. So we'll be making that decision when we make the budget things about how much we're going to reduce that levy this time. It'll only last for 1 year, and then it'll default back. The way the levy language is written, it'll default back to what the taxpayers approved. And then every year the commission will have to make that decision, do we have enough in there to fund the things the public want funded? And then if we think it does and we can still reduce it, we will. I mean, that's so we did kind of anticipate that with this levy to give us the ability to reduce it. I wish they'd do the same with the education levy. And I think when it comes up again, I'm going to advocate for it pretty heavily.
Hey, well, I'm just laying it out there for you, and you guys make
Appreciate
your
it.
decision. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I also,
Go ahead, John.
when I talked to Eddie and Tara out in the hallway, I asked him if there had ever been a reduction in taxes that he could remember. And he said that there was one time before, but then it turned around, went back up to.
Well, actually, I was wrong there. It
Okay.
was twice.
Oh,
that
twice.
it happened.
Okay.
1 year, Fayette County had school bond, which our rates were even higher than they are now, but and when the school bond paid out, that was taken off. And then 1 year, we had to do a massive value overhaul, and once Ruth plugs the numbers in that I give her, and it'll flag it if you have to have hearings and that kind of thing, you have public hearings, and that's what happened, that our numbers were up so much that they either had to have public hearings explain why they were gonna reduce them, or they reduced them, so they reduced them a little bit, but the next year they were back up.
Eddie, also want to comment that we appreciate your thought and try to lower the taxes for our people of Fayette County. And this commission is looking at the same thing, but until we can come up with other ways to supplement our income and other ways that we can do, that we have to take caution in doing that. Now, we understand also that we cannot control the levy rate of the Board of Education, which is a large,
Right,
Entity.
it's 68% approximately.
not much we can do about that. So, that's off the table. So we're dealing with a smaller number that we have to be able to supplement. If we take from one, we've got to be able to collect it from
And
another.
I understand that, and the Board of Education got the same letter,
Yes.
and all the municipalities are gonna get the same letter.
But Ruth has worked hard on it, Ms. Taylor's worked hard, John's looked at it, we've all looked at it, and we are working toward that goal of what you've just presented today. We are working toward that goal. Give us a little time and we'll see what we can come up
Well, it
with.
helps to have the numbers too. I think.
Sure.
Right, okay, thank you.
All
Thank you,
right,
sir.
we have a bid opening that we're a little late on, and I apologize for anybody for that. So Angela,
There's three. One. Two. Ruth, did you give them? Yep, I gave each.
Okay, that's fine.
The bid tabulation sheet to fill all three out. No, did you give them?
But we don't,
Thank you.
we don't rank them, do we?
No, you just fill it out so we know, and then this is your, I went ahead.
You won't award it this time, but you have to. We all have to fill this out?
You normally make your own notes. Maybe just make one for you guys.
Well, I'm just saying like,
Well, you don't
just
have
one
to.
of us fill it out.
I will definitely need at least one
Okay.
that shows, so I can put it on.
okay,
online.
so at this time, Angela,
So two things that we're doing during this, we have the point, because I need to know once, if there is a bid that's not, which houses I'm allowed to go through. So I do have point systems. I did go back and it is only 9 points.
Is it?
Well, the one thing, and I think what happens, commercial structure, you get 1 point, and residential, you get 2, but you can't get through it, so I had to go back but we still did 9. There was only one person that got 9. Now, as far as the income, I called them and asked them. I didn't ask for doc, but some of them are elderly, so I just. There is one that only received a 4, and so that is on Main Street in Mount Hope. That was a request of the mayor. Just side note, and the other one that only scored a 5, everybody else scored 6, 7, or 8. The one that received a 5, that gentleman actually applied, and then he was the one that got murdered a couple years ago, and his neighbor bought it with the hopes to tear it down, but they don't live here. They own a church in Parkersburg, so they did score a little low, but those are the only 2 that. I'm not without, but their score sheets, I have pictures of the houses if you want to see that, but. It's my 2 cents.
We probably need to do it in another meeting with your recommendations.
yeah, well, let's go ahead and open up for bids.
And I have, Tom's tear down, in the future, Angela, when we have these, if it says on the outside, will you go ahead and summarize how many bids we have and who bid it? Who did
Okay,
it?
they go to the county, I mean,
Oh, okay.
yeah, they go to the commission, so I mean, I can do it the day before, how many we have.
Okay. I'd like somebody to do that for the record, so we're not up here, 3 of us trying to do it, but, so we have 3 bids. It's Tom's tear down and take away out of. Yeah. Charleston. What about you guys?
I have Reclaim Company out of Fairmont, West Virginia.
And I have, yeah,
Empire,
thank you.
yeah, out of Bluefield.
Yeah.
It's all West Virginia.
Am I correct that this is, everything that we've decided here is on these bids?
Yeah, so what we have to do for the REAP grant is we ask them for one price for everything, but they have to break it down individually, because if you guys decide not to do one house, they will. The contract we do with them are individual per house, so we do a lump sum in phases to kind of save advertising. So yeah, you guys just need to read the total price.
Whoever did this, I appreciate it. This is very helpful.
Yeah.
Was that you? Thank you. So
I didn't have
what she did was she
anything
had bids for each structure and had all the numbers written in, so now we can easily line by line compare them.
Okay, so why don't you,
Okay,
Go
so
down yours.
my bottom line, do you want to do it house by house or just bottom line? Maybe we do bottom line.
Bottom line,
Want to?
and then we can break it down.
We can do bottom line and then break it down, yeah.
65,659. That's my bottom line.
Okay, my bottom line is 80,000.
Reclaim company out of Fairmont, bottom line is $82,000.
This is a
Okay, we need
substantially
to
lower.
break them
bid.
down house per house.
$65,659 even.
Okay, we need to break them down house by house.
Okay, so,
And they're all in order, correct, on your sheet that you're looking at?
Yeah, my sheet matches your,
Okay,
yes.
And this sheet does, it matches as we go through here. I looked at that,
Yes.
it matches straight up.
right, so do your first one, Allison.
6,964.
Okay, Empire is 6,000.
Reclaim is $8,500.
Okay.
Okay, give me a
For
second.
Ayers Lane and Mount Hope, 9,997.
9,000.
Ayers Lane and Mount Hope is $8,000.
Canal Falls Road, 11,251.
8,500. Canal Falls.
Canal Falls, $7,500.
Yours is 60,000. Is it 60,000 or 80,000?
80, but
Well, it's gonna have to go up, I guess, at some point.
See where it is.
723 Main Street, 19,500.
Main Street, 22,500.
There it is.
Main Street is 16,000 from Reclaim.
Almond Street, 4,991.
Almond Street, 9,000.
Hmm.
That's for the garage and the single wide.
Yes, $10,200.
Lansing Edmond Road is 4,481.
Edmond Road, 6,000.
Lansing Edmond Road, $8,500.
Vicky Patterson, 2,500 even. Or 4,227, since there are two of them, 2,500 even.
4227 is 5,000.
Okie L Patterson Road, Scarborough is $5,500.
Midland Trail, 1,500 even.
What about the other?
Yeah, we got
2848 Midland Trail.
No, what
know.
about the 27 or
Seven.
7441?
Oh, the other Okie Patterson.
Yes.
2975.
4,000.
7,000 from Reclaim.
2848 Midland Trail is 1,500 even.
4,000.
6,000.
2902 Midland Trail, 1,500 even.
6,000.
$4,800.
Disparities.
Yes. Lord jumps.
So the way the REAP grant, you award the whole total price as far as the REAP grant.
When we look at these. I would look at the ones that were 6 and below. Excuse me, total points you said was 9.
9 is the total budget.
Okay, so anything less than 5 and below, I think that we should hold off on.
And we can always, you guys can always come back if we have funds and, because we can still use their bid amount, later on in the grant cycle.
Yeah, we can hold this in advance until.
Correct, that's why we haven't separated out, because they're not gonna do all 10 at the same time, so it's just easier to bump them in phases, so.
Do we know if any of these properties have asbestos?
So we had, a Brownsfield assessment grant, so all of these houses, we were able to do testing.
Sure.
So when the, contractors bid, they were supposed to look at the results to know how much. So this bid includes any abatement if necessary in their bid. And that is part of the bid. So Some of them may not, some of them do, but the contractor knows in advance that it does have asbestos.
And that was the bottom line on yours, Greg,
$82,000.
82 million. Okay,
See if
then
Amy's okay with this.
Amy, is this okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right, cool.
So, that's a good idea too, if that was yours.
That calculation was saying.
Yeah, I was directing that
Yeah.
for Amy.
Yeah, thank you.
To have that, I like having that for our records.
Okay,
So are we awarding today, Ruth? We are not?
Do you want to?
Does
I mean,
somebody,
the only thing we would need, if we can squeeze it in the next meeting, there is a checklist that they had to make sure they have their contractors, so I mean. Unless you want me to look at today and just wait till, I mean, 'cause
I
it's,
think we could award it on the fifth and that way we can go.
and that'll
I
be
think so too.
And then I'll go ahead
go through it.
the ones that are 6 and above, I'll go ahead and check with Anthony, make sure that he's got the title coverage that he needs. To make sure that those people are eligible. Yeah, that'll give me enough time to check them.
And it'll give us time to review the companies too, to make sure that they qualify.
Yeah, and there's a checklist of stuff they were supposed to bid, send into the bids. I will check.
all right, so. Angela, hold on. At this point, I would like to make a motion that any property that scores 5 or less be held until a later time, once we see the amount of money that we have left.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, the second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Angela.
Well, I'll have another round here in a month.
All right,
Make sure we advertise that just like we did this one, okay?
Yes, we do,
we have,
We're back on time, kind of.
sort of, no, not really, but, we need to go to Page Kincaid PSD. Anthony, is it okay if we move your
Well, he's
budget?
He's later, John.
at 10:45. We're on time.
Oh,
We're on time.
okay, all right, well, cool, we're on time.
Yeah, sure.
Not really. Thank you, Anthony, I appreciate that. All right, Page Kincaid PSD. Jim, you want to come up and you got your 3 board members here today?
Yes, we do.
And we have our wayward traveler. I thought you might still be in Arizona.
No.
Okay,
Okay, I'm James McCartney, chairman of the commission at Page Kincaid PSD. We've been asked to come here to show you what our finances are and such as that. These are vendors that we owe, that we don't have an income to pay.
okay. And Jim, do you mind, telling us, everyone that's with you?
Okay, we have Jaden Smith, who is our secretary treasurer. We have Ron Arbaugh in the back, who is another commission member. We have Bob Jackson, who manages the plant, and behind him is Philip Tissue, our attorney.
Okay, all right, thank
Hey,
you.
John, can I say
Go ahead.
something before
Go ahead.
they get into the nuts and bolts? So the reason we asked you guys to come is because West Virginia American Water approached us on January 22nd, and made a proposal to buy 3 of our public service districts, water and sewer for one, and then sewer for the others, because obviously they have your water. And we asked after that meeting, our council asked for permission to release that proposal to the PSD boards, because we didn't, want to do it in private. We wanted to make sure everybody knew what we knew. They gave us permission, so we sent it to your lawyers. We asked some questions during that meeting that are relevant. One was, do you plan to leave the boards in place? And the answer was no. Do you plan to keep the staff? The answer was yes. And if the sale took place, could we apply the proceeds of the sale to offset the increases in the customer's bills? And the answer was yes, for a 3-year period. So those were the questions we asked. We understand that PSDs are set up for failure in our current system. We understand that when a big company like West Virginia American Water wants to come in, they can file a distressed utility. And by the way, whoever wrote that in the letter that we declared you a distressed utility, That's not true. We don't have that authority or desire to do that. The Public Service Commission, that commission is the one that declares the distressed utilities after there is a petition put in. But once they petition, I believe that the Public Service Commission does favor West Virginia American Water, and it doesn't matter what you do or what the facts are or anything else. They file a distressed utility action, and then they get to assess whether you're distressed or not, the people who are filing the action. And then the Public Service Commission takes their word for it. And in effect, stops all of your grant funding and every bit of money that you have to be able to fix any problems you have. The whole system is set up for you to fail, and we understand that. The options presented to us by our council are, in a case like this, a PSD can decide it wants to be taken over, and that's usually the easiest. A county commission can decide for the PSD against its will, which is the hardest. Or, well, actually, the hardest is probably the months and months and months of litigating it through the PSC that will probably eventually turn into a takeover anyway because of the way the wind is blowing down there. And that's kind of where we are. So what West Virginia American Water has asked us to do is to decide for you. And we don't want to do any of that in a vacuum, which is why we asked to hear from you. So we want to hear what you want to say to the public first, and then we want to go into executive session with you and your council and our council and discuss the nitty gritty and see, where we really are on things. Because, we have a hard decision before us and we don't want to make it in a vacuum. We're also going to have some public meetings with your constituents, your customers in your communities, to see what they have to say about it too. And we have those scheduled for the 4th, 5th, and 6th of March. So are those the dates? Did I get that right? Or 6th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. 5th, 6th, and 7th of March. So yours is going to be on the 7th.
And theirs is the 7th at the fire department.
In Page.
Yes.
So that's kind of where we are, just so you know where we're coming from and what our, concerns are. Okay, so tell us what you gave us here.
Okay, well, that is a list of vendors that are owed by us.
Okay, now, does this include the grinders that you need? Okay, and what's the cost on that equipment?
There were, well, the 50 grinders was in a project that we were trying to get off the ground to upgrade the Page lift station along with 50 grinders in the project.
Okay, what's the total cost of that project?
It's over $1 million.
The 50 grinders alone, I'm trying to remember.
50 grinders was,
100 and some
it
thousand.
was a little over 100,000.
How many grinders?
50.
And that's to replace the old ones, the original old ones that's still in, as well as fill in where some of the duplexes only have one grinder in them, and it'll also allow some spares.
Okay.
So you're saying you have a project that the project will total over $1 million, but just the grinder pumps that he was talking about, the grinder station would be about $100,000 to replace.
Yeah,
In that budget,
yeah.
Well, no, that's on top of the,
on top of the,
Yeah.
well,
No, that was included.
that'd be included in the $1 million.
oh, in the million, yeah, but
Yeah.
the grinders themselves that are necessary, that's $100,000 just right off the top.
And you haven't purchased them, you've given us a list of vendors and what you owe them. That is services already rendered or product already bought. This is an additional
Yes.
project.
So this is debt.
Yeah,
Debt.
that's just revenue debt.
Is this, does anybody know, but is this I know that all PSDs carry some debt. I mean, all businesses carry debt. So is this an extraordinary amount of debt for a PSD, or is this average?
Michael?
I mean, I don't think he knows anything. Does anybody know? And you manage it, is in your experience, is this like about right for what you guys have carried over the years, or is it something?
No, it's excessive, and it's due to the fact that West Virginia American Water did not pay us everything when they took the water over that was owed us.
Well, they have provided evidence that they have, so we would need to see the evidence that they haven't. Exactly like the documents and what was owed, and maybe Michael, you can follow up with Mr. Tissue about it and
Yeah.
and figure out.
The one thing that sticks out,
I want to see the legal document saying how much is owed, and then I want us to see how much was paid based on what they're saying and then what you guys are saying, so.
yeah, the one thing that sticks out was the overpayment to the engineering company that they authorized on the payment through the contract.
Well, that was it, that amount was turned in, the 330,000.
Michael, I sent you copies of all that too.
330 was, excuse me, 330 was what?
That was, Thrasher, the engineering
Engineering
firm,
company, yeah.
because we were in the process of replacing the filters at the water plant. And that project had already been funded, and it was actually ready to go when this started up. We were gonna be replacing all three filters. We're putting 3 filters in instead of 2. But anyway, the Thrasher, that was their total up to that point of what was owed on the project that they worked on. And American Water come in and said, well, no, that's too much money, they don't know that. They only offered 220,000. So when they sent money in, I mean, we paid Thrasher the 330,000, what was owed. That was their bill. I don't know where American Water got the right to decide that it wasn't owed. But anyway,
There should be some legal document that says, and I'm sure your attorney and our attorney can figure out where it is, but there should be a legal document, the contract for sale should contain how much they owed you. And if that were in dispute at the time, then you guys would have disputed it, but whatever that document says is going to determine and control whether they owe you money or not. I mean, whether we like it or not, that's going to be the document court would look at and say, you know, this is what they agreed to, and then they're going to go from there. So if you agreed to it without the Thrasher money in it, then, you know, that's something that, you know, I think it's going to be one of those too bad situations. And I remember what was going on back when, you know, because that's when I heard it here, you know, and the situation you guys had at the time was an emergency. I mean, it was terrible what was going on down there. But that's one of the reasons I ran for county commission, was because it was so bad, because I thought, you know, they need somebody to advocate for them. But fortunately, it got worked out before I got here. But anyway, it, you know, that's why we need to look into it and resolve this question of, if they do owe us, I want to know what they owe us, you know, but that's going to be based on the contract and based on what they've paid, based on your records and theirs. So.
Now that all took place before I was in this position, and my understanding is it was a meeting. I'm assuming it was here. It was a special meeting, so there was no recording of it or documentation of that meeting.
There, if it was in the last 4 years, there was a recording of it. The only thing that's
Mr.
not
Brenneman
recorded
has
is.
informed us there
Okay,
was.
I can tell you what it was. They did the closing paperwork here. It wasn't a meeting. It was West Virginia American and Page Kincaid PSD used this office or used this room to do the final contract signing.
Okay, so it wasn't a commission
No,
meeting.
there was
it wasn't
not a
public
commission meeting. There was nothing
It was a
that was
business
blown out of
meeting
proportion
that
to.
had nothing to do.
In
with
that meeting, it was signed paperwork. We'll determine it later. We'll work out the details later. Is that accurate?
yeah,
Which is not a good way to do business. It won't happen on my watch if it comes up again. But West Virginia American Water has proved that they're not a good company. They're not taking care of things properly. They came in and took over the water out there. They have completed the water out there. Where are our fire hydrants for fire suppression? All along 61, there's only a couple. Up Johnson Branch, there's no usable hydrants for fire suppression. We pay the same money out there for water as people in the city who have their fire hydrants. I got 25 years in the fire service, and I'm saying that as a resident to take care of our people. We need hydrants out there. West Virginia American Water hasn't done it. This commission has not called on them to finish their job out there.
You know, so you must be the one writing the letters. I would like you to get your facts straight before you start making accusations like that. I've not seen you in here once bringing any of that to our attention or asking us to act on it. And I don't know how we're supposed to figure out what your problems are if you as the leader of that board aren't coming in here and conveying them to us until you get angry and write some letter with a bunch of spurious accusations. So I'd like to ask you respectfully to bring that stuff to our attention. Now, if you brought it to our attention and then we just ignored you, that would be something different, but that's not what's happened here. And we can look through years and minutes to see if that's happened, and I guarantee it's not there because I've been here. So, you know, when you make accusations like that, and you're not the only one in here that does that, you know, I would like you to consider what your responsibility is as the head of that board to bring things to our attention. Because we can't know everything everywhere. You guys are placed, we put our trust in you when we put you on those boards to keep us in the loop. You're the ones who know what's going on in your community. This is the first I've heard about this fire hydrant issue, and that's a serious issue to me.
It is a serious issue. That is, I brought that up more as a resident than a member of this commission here.
But no, I'm
And
glad
that
you
was,
did, because
this is when I'm informing you of it right now.
But here's
Okay.
the thing, like in these situations where we need to figure out, and we'll talk more in executive session about it, but we need to figure out what our position is as a group on this issue. But also, if we were to make a deal with West Virginia American Water, what do we want to be part of the deal? Fire hydrant's gonna be on my list now. You know what I mean? And, you know, keeping our employees and things like that. But that's the kind of thing that we need to know, and we need to know it from you. And you can come in here anytime, you know, get on the agenda and come in here anytime and tell us what's up and ask for help with this stuff. Like, we just burned through a bunch of COVID money, and I would love to have known about this issue before we did that at the end of last year. I know we gave you some, but, you know, Commissioner Brenneman advocated to give everybody, you know, but we gave more. Like, we did not give you as much as we could have. We could have given you more money, and that's just something that, you know, if we don't know about your problems, because we will now all have it in the back of our minds about the fire hydrants. We will all have it in our minds, all this stuff that you're telling us. This is serious that these people have no way, their houses have no chance. No matter how good y'all are at the fire department, if you don't have a way to access, you have limited water on these pumpers. You know, I just, you know, this is the kind of stuff I really want to know. So thank you for telling us.
Those previous letters were just addressed the sewer and the financial stuff. They had nothing to, there was no addressing fire hydrant issues in those letters at all.
So let's go back to the numbers here. And you said that West Virginia American Water didn't pay the Thrasher Group the amount that was owed. Is that your claim? Is that what you're stating?
Yes.
And so they paid $220 instead of $330. Is that what you were saying? So about $110,000 you feel is what? What do you feel? What happened to the $110,000? Is that owed to you?
Yes.
Well, did Thrasher Group not do a service?
In the meeting that was here,
Okay.
deciding, all this come out. They said that, they had looked at it and they determined that Thrasher wasn't owed that much, even though that was what was turned in. Okay? These other, because we paid Thrasher the full amount, the $330,000 out of what they paid us, that left 11 Associates, Steptoe Johnson, the County Commission, Truist Bank, Pendleton Community Bank, Region 4, and Phil Tissue was all left hanging in the breeze.
Well, now, can I pause you there just for a second? Because the totals that I'm seeing add up come to greater than $110,000. So, I mean, it would have helped, but it would not have cured.
Right,
So what is your plan?
well,
Mm-hmm.
the total on these was 181,227.19.
Yes,
And you can take 37,900 off of that because West Virginia American, instead of paying us what was owed to the county commission, they blindsided us, they left us out of it completely and sent the money to the county commission.
so you're saying this commission received $37,900 from West Virginia American Water that you feel was your money?
That should have gone to the PSD.
Well, no, we would have paid, that's what we owed the Fayette County Commission in a loan that we got.
Okay, so they paid off a loan.
They paid off that loan. But instead of paying us like it was supposed to have been through it, also too, Truist Bank, which was BB&T at that time,
Sure.
they owed them. And it was almost a year later before they paid them,
Okay.
and all this money accrued, interest accrued on top of that all along.
Did you guys get assessed that interest? Or did
Well-
they pay the interest?
No, they paid the interest.
So what's
We
the
didn't
claim?
we didn't pay anything on the trust. Until this was settled because it was owed, and that was all part of the conversation that we had in here. That, go ahead and sign these papers now, we'll work this out later. Well, it took over a year, or about a year, I think, to get that part worked out, and it was even longer than that before they paid the county commission. Bill Tissue still left hanging out for 16-some thousand. We took money and paid Steptoe and Johnson in order to get them to do some stuff for us. That was concerning all this too.
Okay,
They did finally pay Pendleton Community Bank, they paid it directly.
So what haven't they paid that? Where does that bottom line number
Yep.
come from that they haven't paid?
What's your claim?
They take the 37.9 off of this 181,227.
okay, at this time, not to cut you off, Bart, we'll come back to that. But we just received some information and I would like to go into executive session in Ruth's office with the commissioners and Michael and Anthony, please. So we can discuss.
For what purpose?
To get information from our attorney.
Legal advice.
Legal advice.
Yeah, and legal advice. Thank you, Anthony. Well. Okay, we just come out of executive session where no decisions were made. We just met with our attorneys. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Taylor.
Well, as we have in the past, we got some legal advice on a couple of things, but we also discussed some of the legal implications with the PSD board about their position on whether to sell to PSD. One thing that concerned me, I mean, I'm concerned about all the debt, but I was particularly concerned that their counsel had not been paid in some time based on the bill, and we do have an itemized bill from him that we found in our files. Is that up to date, Mr. Tissue? Outside of today's?
Right, yes, sure.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the Fayette County Commission go ahead and directly pay Mr. Tissue's bill for his services to the PSD board because he's been representing them for 40 years. And they, because the majority of the board opposes this West Virginia American Water purchase, they are going to need their counsel to be ready to go. And in order to do that, he's definitely going to need to have his bills paid. So what was the amount? Does anybody have that handy?
$16,535.61.
So I move that we approve that amount and pay Mr. Tissue for his services to the Page Kincaid PSD.
Mr. Fisher, is that amount acceptable to you?
Yes, that's acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Out of the general fund, yeah.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion probably moving second. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Tissue.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're so far behind, we think we're ahead. So, do we want to go ahead and hit the,
I would let them do their budget.
Okay, all right, good. Then, Mr. Prosecutor? One thing that I'll say now, since our sheriff is here also. First, as we look at budgets, we are going to do the minimum budget allowed for the office to operate as we do every year. And then we'll go back and take a look at the extras that are asked for. And I will also say this now, so I won't interrupt your spiel that you're giving. But if you're asking for employee raises, I want you to ask yourself, would your employees prefer to pay for the PEI increase, which is 16%? Or would they rather have the increase in pay? So if they have an increase in pay, then we're going to lean toward possibly them paying the insurance premium. If we don't look at the increase in pay at 100%, then the commission has a chance, an opportunity, depending on how things fill out, to possibly continue to pay that PEI increase.
We started with that, Amy.
It's okay. I'll get him.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, she'll get it off of the
Okay. Well, if you have any questions, just call me.
so that's just something to put out there. All right, we have a budget book here.
So far, so good.
And was the microphone turned back on so people can hear Anthony? If he
Press the button, Anthony, if you would. On the top, the gray button.
Press it and hold it.
Power button?
Yeah.
What's going on? We good now?
Yep.
You ready to go?
Yep.
yes, sir.
Okay, I am not gonna spend a lot of time on most of the items in the proposed budget. Professional services and investigation expenses, these are funds that we expend when we need additional information to prosecute criminal cases and in instances where we may need to hire an expert in a particular area. Those particular budget items, I'm not asking for an increase there. Training and education, dues and subscriptions, likewise, I'm not asking for any increase there. Training and education has to do with the attorneys in the office maintaining their ability to practice law, because we have to undergo a certain amount of continuing legal education every, it's a 2-year period. Dues and subscriptions, the commission has paid the West Virginia State Bar dues for the attorneys in the prosecutor's office. And we also, within that line item is our LexisNexis account, which we use for legal research. That remains the same. Travel expenses, which is employees in the office traveling for CLE seminars. It also is used to pay witnesses to come to Fayette County to testify. And to pay for accommodations and meals while they're here. Maintenance and repair of equipment is self-explanatory. Those will remain the same. I'm not going to get into vision and dental, retirement, health insurance, FICA, because those numbers are more or less fixed. So where I want to start is extra help. Last year, the county commission approved just over $9,000 to give us the ability to hire a summer intern. None of the money has been spent because the funds weren't allocated until July 1st.
And July 1st was way too late to even consider hiring a law student for a summer intern position. The position is currently posted. We've had 2 applicants so far, and I'm going to try to get interviews set up with these law students. The idea behind doing this is to try to encourage law students to pursue employment with the prosecutor's office in the future, should they end up desiring to pursue a career, or at least a portion of a career prosecuting cases. I'm simply asking that that amount be allotted again for the upcoming fiscal year. If we do hire somebody, there's no way we're gonna be able to get through the allotted amount before the end of the year, because they're gonna start sometime in May. And they will work, I believe, until August was the time frame. Overtime, I'm asking for a slight increase there. It is necessary for our support staff. Lawyers in the office do not get overtime. It is necessary for our support staff from time to time to work extra hours, particularly if we are in trial. It's not unusual for our judges to conduct proceedings and trials until 5 o'clock. And once we get out of the courtroom, it's not uncommon for us to have things to do that evening to get ready for the next day. It's also typical for the support staff to come in early when we're in trial to help get ready for those. Where I want to spend most of my time is addressing the salaries, primarily for the attorneys in the prosecutor's office. I've been in office now for just over 4 years. In that time, we've lost 5 attorneys. Obviously, that's more than 1 a year. One of those attorneys, Jennifer Crane, obviously left the prosecutor's office, went to Kanawha County, was there for just over a year, and then returned to Fayette County. What I can tell you is as for the other 4, 3 of those attorneys mentioned to me that the reason, or at least one of the reasons they left, was the amount of compensation. Amy McLaughlin, the most recent attorney to leave our office, she took a job with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District. She advised that they were offering her $10,000 more per year than what we were paying her. Tyler Warbaugh, when he left the prosecutor's office, he took a job with the National Guard in Charleston. Tyler disclosed that they offered him a salary of $21,000 more per year than what we were paying.
To be
him.
fair, in those cases, those are both more desirable positions as far as retirement is concerned, though.
Well-
You know, and prestige is in the case of the assistant U.S. attorney, that's kind of the pinnacle of the, you know, criminal litigator.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it doesn't change the fact that we were essentially outcompeted in both instances from strictly a salary standpoint.
I think that even if we were to match Amy's salary, that she would have still taken that position, I guess. And when I was reading your argument here, I wasn't as persuaded for those reasons, you know, just knowing the desirability. I think the problem is statewide. I mean, as you know, we have a shortage. We have a shortage statewide, and he has the same challenges that Jess has in trying to recruit and retain people to your particular, to the, you know, for lack of a better term, I mean, in any county level job, we can't offer the benefits. PEIA is not as good as federal benefits. PEIA is not as good as military benefits. I mean, it's just, you can't compete with that, and the opportunities to progress. And you have the exact same kind of challenges in recruiting and retaining that Jess has because of those reasons. You know, there's always going to be somebody bigger and better that's going to have an opening, especially with the shortage of people with our skill set. You know, I mean, I totally agree. One thing that was missing for me, though, is the bar admission dates for your council, you know, for your attorneys, where you've mentioned, you know, their licensed salaries when they were licensed. I didn't have that to compare. I have a general sense for when, and I know where to find it. But I just kind of wondered, you know, I know Jennifer Crane's been at it probably 20 years now. But then,
Longer than that.
Yeah.
We were actually coincidentally sworn in on the same day.
oh, wow.
But the bigger issue from my perspective is this. One of the reasons the jail bill may have gone up and probably went up is Wes submitted his resignation last year. He gave me a month advance notice. I immediately posted the job. We had 3 people express interest. One of whom, for reasons that only the applicant knows, ghosted us. She submitted a resume, submitted a cover letter, and within a matter of a day or two, we reached out through email and telephone to try to schedule an interview and never heard back from her. The second applicant, I'm not going to mention names or a county, but I've heard enough negative things about this particular attorney that I viewed this attorney as a liability rather than an asset. And I did not pursue scheduling an interview with this particular attorney. So the third and final candidate was Ethan Brogan, one of our current assistants. Ethan was not licensed in West Virginia. I delayed offering him a job, hoping that somebody else would submit a resume, and it never happened. So we ended up offering Ethan the job with the understanding that he had to be admitted to practice in West Virginia by the end of the year. He was admitted in South Carolina. The Supreme Court led all of us to believe that this was just going to be a formality. He didn't have to take the bar exam over again. And make a long story short, he wasn't sworn in until January 28th. So essentially what has happened is for a full month, a little bit more than a month, we were short a body. And then once Ethan started, Ethan pretty much did not have the experience to basically do anything other than go to court with us and observe. You know, when Amy left, we were able to fill her position fairly quickly. I guess I owe a debt of gratitude to the former prosecutor in Raleigh County, Mr. Hatfield, for firing Mr. Lilly. The Raleigh County Commission very well may pay a price for that at some point in time, but Mr. Lilly's been with us now for about a month. And so far, I'm very impressed with what I've seen. He works hard. He's got good judgment. I have no complaints, and I think he's going to be a significant asset for us. But suffice it to say, when Ms. McLaughlin left, memory serves, we had 3 more applicants.
I want to add something. Since you brought up that he was fired for political reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Whistleblower.
Oh, absolutely.
And I want to just make sure that nobody thinks that you hired somebody's reject because he had done something wrong, because he did not.
It was a purely political move.
He was a whistleblower and he was fired for it.
And there is going to be a lawsuit filed, if not this week, very soon, regarding that situation. And part of that lawsuit is going to be Mr. Lilly's firing. So we're lucky to have him. But at the end of the day, the other thing that I think all of you need to consider is that when we hire attorneys, most of the time we have to expend time and effort to train these attorneys. Every single attorney that has started at the prosecutor's office since I have been there, with the exception of Jennifer and with the exception of Wes, needed time from myself, needed time from Ms. Crane to train them, to educate them, to get them at an experience level where they were useful to the office. And something else I think all of the commission needs to consider is at this point, best case scenario, I'm going to work for another 8 years and then I am retiring and I'm done. There is no one else in that office right now that has the experience to deal with the issues that the county commission needs to be addressed by the prosecutor's office. Aside from me, there's no one else in that office that has that experience. And the problem that we are facing is, you know, I can train somebody, but whether or not they're still going to be there in 4 years, 6 years remains to be seen. So my biggest issue is if you take a look at the salaries for, I provided information for 4 of the surrounding counties. What really surprised me was Nicholas County. I was
surprised by that too. And by Raleigh County's mess.
I was absolutely stunned by what I saw on Nicholas County. As I indicated in my budget, proposal, notwithstanding the fact that we communicated with the Raleigh County Clerk and the Raleigh County Prosecutor and the attorney for the Raleigh County Commission, and notwithstanding the fact that I was told I would get the information, I never got the information. I didn't want to have to resort to a FOIA request. This is public record. I don't quite understand why it
My
wasn't.
guess is Cochran trial, the change of command in the
This was after
attorney.
I requested
Was
it, I requested it after the Cochran trial, but
Even based on what Chad told you though, I mean, Raleigh County paying full-time salaries to part-time, a whole office full of part-time prosecutors explains a lot.
so the bigger issue is if openings come available in the neighboring counties, our attorneys stand a very good chance of moving to the next county over and getting a pay increase. Obviously, I think one way to address that issue is to increase the compensation for our lawyers. And for those that are in the commission chambers and for those who may be watching this through the internet, I want to be clear that the requested increase does not apply to me. The legislature is the only body that can give me a raise. The county commission has nothing to do with my, the county commission has nothing to do with determining how much I'm paid. But it, to me, it makes good business sense from a number of perspectives to try to increase compensation to keep the attorneys in our office. As I said, in the long run, I think it will decrease costs in terms of expending time training and educating these lawyers. For the life of me, I can only assume Mr. Burdick didn't know about the position in Nicholas County because it was just filled. They hired Anthony Salvatore, who I don't know what the status is with his private practice. I can only assume he's no longer involved in that, but.
I didn't know that. Is he the licensed 2010?
No, that is the attorney that was there on July 1st of last summer. And she is no longer there. But that amount was in the budget for this fiscal year. That attorney, like I said, that attorney left the prosecutor's office because of she won an election. But in any event, and I've also asked for an increase, a slight increase for Jessica Shockey, who basically is responsible for handling every single felony criminal case that comes through the office. She's responsible for getting cases ready, or not getting the cases ready for grand jury. She's responsible for doing the scheduling, getting the witnesses to grand jury. All of the evidence on every felony case that comes through the office goes through her hands. And we've outlost Ms. Shockey to the U.S. Attorney's Office, I believe summer before last, and we were able to convince her to stay, in part by offering her more money. As far as Ms. Pridemore is concerned, she's essentially the office manager. She's the one who makes the office run the way it should. She's also, of course, my legal assistant, but Ms. Shockey and Ms. Pridemore are indispensable to the day-to-day operation of that office. And to address the issue that Commissioner Brenneman raised, you're probably not gonna like my answer, but I'm gonna give you my answer. And the reality is I believe the attorneys in my office, and I believe the support staff that I mentioned deserve an increase in pay and for the county commission to continue providing PEIA insurance at the current rate. Certainly, I understand that the commission can only give us what is available. And I understand the position the commission's in. But it doesn't mean I can't come here and go to bat for my employees. And I think, I think it's warranted under the circumstances and based on what I've seen. And one of the other problems we're dealing with, since I've taken office, the number of attorneys that we've lost in Fayetteville, Fayette County in general, has been somewhat significant when you consider it from a percentage. I mean, Greg Hewitt and Anthony Salvatore shut down their office, with Mr. Salvatore taking the job in Nicholas County. I don't know whether their private practice is even a viable entity. But of course, we've had, the passing of Chris Moorhead, the passing of Jack Thompson. Jim Keenan has retired.
Allison Taylor's on the commission.
Allison Taylor's on the commission.
I can't practice in Fayette County courts doing what I do right now.
But the reality is, and when I was an assistant prosecutor, we had the same setup that Raleigh County has, and basically the prosecutors were part-time. And then most of us had our own private practices. And I can tell you that I don't think that's a good idea. It presents a number of problems. It presents issues of conflicts of interest when you get into criminal overtones in your private practice. It also presents issues of, well, is this employee spending enough time at the prosecutor's office? Are they spending too much time at their private practice? And I believe it was Mr. Hara who finally made the decision to do away with the part-time prosecutor model. And I think that's the correct decision. I don't think it's a good idea going back to that model, although Raleigh County does it, and as I indicated in my proposal, Wayne County also does it. But in any event, I think I've made my point to the commission, but I think in the long run, the commission will get a return on its investment because I think we'll be able to retain lawyers. The turnover has been frustrating, to say the least, from both the perspective of losing employees that we've invested time in as far as training, and it's also been frustrating from the perspective of finding new attorneys willing to come in. So I'll go ahead and wrap that up, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Well, I just wanted to add to, just for my colleagues' edification, that the only attorney that Anthony has hired who could actually start the job and hit the ground running was Jennifer Crane, because she had worked in the office before in this county. There, even if with Chad Lilly, who came from Raleigh County, who had been an assistant prosecutor there's still a huge learning curve with your judges, with your processes, your magistrates. It's not a plug and play with lawyers, and certainly if the lawyer has no criminal experience at all, which several of his, who've come in haven't had, they've had to train them more, and then they leave with what they learned and go somewhere else to another criminal job. So,
and one other thing I do want to impress upon the convention, we tend to prosecute aggressively. I mean, it's interesting hearing Chad comment about how we do things versus how things are done in Raleigh County. Now, Raleigh County has a volume that far exceeds our volume, but we tend to prosecute aggressively, meaning that we tend to push felonies rather than plead them down to misdemeanors. We, on average, will indict between 180 and 190 indictments every year. If you use the lower number, and if you assume we have 5 attorneys who are able to handle felonies from start to finish. That's 36 felonies a year per lawyer. In Nicholas County, they typically indict around 12 people every term, so you're talking about 36 felonies in a year divided between two of their lawyers that handle felonies, so you're looking at half the felony workload. You're looking at half the felony workload that we have now. It also means that all the other things that the prosecutor's office has to do, asset forfeitures, expungements, also are going to have to be divided amongst two lawyers, but I would assume that Nicholas County has a much lower volume than what we have here in Fayette County. But, you know, to Allison's point, it's interesting because, you know, Chad is, I've heard him several times talk about learning the Fayette County way. And essentially what he means by that is just getting a handle on what my tolerances are in terms of how cases should be handled, what the judge's preferences are and what their predispositions are as far as how they want things handled. Same with the magistrates. But he's so far, I have no complaints, and actually I think he's a great hire for us. But if there are no questions, I'll go ahead and grab a seat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Sheriff?
Y'all ready for some redundancy? Good morning, guys. And
Morning.
first of all, thank y'all. And this is my first time doing this, first time presenting, so this was a whole new adventure for me and learning this, especially starting from scratch. So I really want to thank Wilbert and Ruth especially for giving me the guidance and pointing me in the direction to get this stuff done to help me through it. My chief Shannon, my two lieutenants, they've really stepped up, stood behind me and helped me get through this, so I wasn't doing it by
What's the
myself.
other lieutenant besides Twig?
Richie Collison. And they've been doing a really, really good job. And they've been there every step of the way with me, and I appreciate that more than anything. But anyway, I'm sure you guys have had the opportunity to look over the budget that I proposed, and it's very expensive. Like I said, it's my first one. My goal was to lay out all the foundations that I know that we need in this county moving forward. Knowing that it's not all practical at this time. My goal was to design a budget that I will go use the next few years to help myself prepare the next one, if that makes sense. So going into next year, I'll know a little bit more about what we need, because this is what we got, this is what we can do. Like I said, it's my first time. So I wanted to shoot for the moon and hope for the best. And I've really prioritized what we need moving forward, what's going on at the office that would help out. Like I said, here in a minute, you're gonna hear a lot of redundancy that the prosecutor said that we have the same problems with. What Ms. Taylor said, that's everywhere. Unfortunately, it's more so here than what I'm experiencing talking to other sheriffs and stuff around the state. So, but anyway, first of all, I'll go down through the additional budget request other than the main meat of it here, the extra things we're asking for. Ask for an increase in overtime. I know that's probably an asked increase every year because of the cost that it inquires to pay these overtime budgets with holidays and everything else we're experiencing. I think the current approved amount is 151,000. It was 81 from general, 70 from the levy. Just requesting that total amount be increased to 160. Training. This is a huge part of our necessity here, because we are required 16 hours in service annually, and our supervisors are required an additional 8 hours every 2 years.
How many supervisors do you have right now?
We have how many supervisors right now? We'd have to, I think there's
Why don't you just get it to Ruth?
more than 10. Yeah.
Okay, so greater than 10.
Our current training budget is 10, and I was asking it to be extended for 20. Good thing is we can currently do a lot of in-house training because we got a lot of instructors. Matter of fact, we're doing in-house training Friday for in-service. But it's nice to have that budget budgeted item to be able to send guys to specialized trainings that none of us can teach. That may be something used for some type of future equipment that we get, or something that we need, like an extra firearms trainer or something like that with people leaving. We got guys that go to drone school, we got 3 drone pilots. So we were looking for an increase from $10,000 to $20,000 in that category, just to help with the cost that we may inquire to send people to classes. Radios, portable radios, our portables are, I don't think we have any extras right now. They're expensive. They're a necessity for our guys. We're requesting $30,000 to purchase 5. I've attached a quote to that from Motorola, but that's how much it costs for just 5 of the portable radios. We're running without any now. I don't know that some of our guys have one that's not working. I know we have battery issues and we're switching them in and out and things like that. So that would help us tremendously. Our firearms training, we're requesting $30,000 for that, for training qualifications. We're required to qualify biannually. The cost of ammunition alone for half a year qualification, which is one time, is about $9,500. So we're asking for that. Hopefully, in the future, and this is not in the budget because I know it's stuff we've discussed outside of here. It's
About the range.
about the range.
So I got something for you on that. Chris Burford from New River Engineering, you know him?
Talked to him this morning.
Okay, good, because he offered to help y'all with the plan.
Him and Twig are probably gonna talk to
Good,
him.
I just wrote his number down, but
Yeah,
but I had talked to him about, some of the projects he already has going with the commission and,
well, he's willing to help, and
In the
that's great when
training
you got people from the community that wants to step up and help us get stuff
with
done.
that expertise too.
Yeah.
And, so I'm glad that you guys have already connected.
He's helped me with a couple other things too, so
Sweet.
yeah, he's kind of family. He married one of my cousins.
Oh, well, that helps.
Um,
But, the fact that he's willing to help, I think if you guys can get a good plan together, we did approve getting a grant writer to target specific money for specific projects, and that's one of probably my top priority project
yeah,
that I want to see done. I mean, we want to build a new animal shelter and we've got a couple other things.
well, unfortunately, we hit another rocky road there a few weeks ago because we would use Beckley Police Department's range to qualify. We'd have to borrow it from them. Well, they just got kicked off of theirs because the city of Beckley's got other plans for where that range is now. So now they're homeless.
I read
So-
about that. I wondered if that was.
So now we're kind of, we're in a rock and a hard place ourselves.
Sheriff, I've done it. Go ahead, John, go ahead.
Have you checked with the scouts?
We can use them, but it's.
Pain in the butt to
when
get
it's
up in
available
there.
For them, all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, we have to do it twice a year regardless, low light, daytime. So it's kind of
they need to be able to do it more than that though. I mean,
Well,
that's best case.
that's why I asked for
worst case
that
scenario.
money in the firearms budget to buy more ammo, because shooting twice a year is, the general public shoots more than that. So our guys are going out on their own and shooting, and relying on them to do that is kind of hard. So when we can require firearms training, that's just a benefit for all of us.
I've done a little research too. I've looked into this. I think it's very important that our deputies and our law enforcement agents be trained, but we have to be careful. I talked to the National Guard out of Charleston. They built an indoor training facility. It's the most expensive, storage building they have right now because of the environmental impact that it has, that you have to have the filters and the systems that have to be.
That's an indoor range, correct?
That's indoor. So, so I kind of moved away from that.
Yeah.
But that's not an only thing we can do, but you have to be careful. It would be lovely to put you guys in an indoor range, build something for you, but that's probably not gonna be.
We've got
feasible.
design set up for outdoor stuff.
When you set it up for outdoors, you can still do air where you can move targets with electric.
We got that all set up in our plan.
And we can do that, but now we have to design properly because you also have lead. And lead is a contaminant, and you have to be able to set your range to where you can cover the lead at a certain time, because exposed lead is an environmental hazard. And you have to be able to set your range up that we can.
That's where Mr. Burford's expertise. is.
That's correct, but we have to cover the lead, and there are designs, and that's what I'm looking at, different designs of what is good.
Well, they
in those
have an
plans.
engineer,
Yeah, we got
so
an engineer.
they have an engineered plan, it's just older. And I wanted them, and we have a couple of other plans that have come about that people have drawn out, and so. That's the reason, Jess and I have talked about this some months ago, but getting, and then I asked Mr. Burford to come in and help them sort through that plan and make sure that plan is what you meets the current need and that sort of thing. And he's well equipped to do that and volunteered to do it, for free.
I think
So,
the last plan that was done years ago was pretty extensive.
yeah, it was.
Tweaked it, redone a new one, and it's very doable. He's got it laid out for our what we need, but it's also, I think, economically and fundability probable because it's not an extensive range and asking for elaborate, just what we need to get by.
How much was that grant? It was over $60,000, 68. So we have.
We got a little bit to get going.
So have you looked at, simunition and the
Yeah,
weaponry?
yeah.
You've looked at all that too? And I mean, that's a great training tool. And it's readily available. I mean, it's getting more popular.
It's an
But
indoor training simulation, so.
that can be, but that's similar to the paintball, but without using paintballs, it's actually using your actual weapons. That you can actually go at each other.
Yeah.
It's,
We have some of them.
you have,
Yeah.
and that's good. And as long as you're staying up to date and staying with it and look at failures of other agencies and where they failed. Army National Guard in Charleston failed. They built a building and failed. I mean, and that was huge expense.
Yeah.
So we don't want to fail. We want to do it. We want to do it right. We want to do it right to where you can enjoy it for years. We have to stay up with the current laws. We have to stay up with the EPA. We have to stay up with what you need and then train your officers. Of course.
Next thing was our SRT team. It's a very vital resource we have in our county. We're the only agency around here right now. They get used and asked for in other counties. They're very well trained. Trained 2 times a month, keep up on everything. They're SWAT certified. A lot of them have a special duty or a special training quality on the team. They're in need of specialized equipment right now that, would help them out with their missions and keep them safe and the community as safe as possible. Less lethal ammunition, breaching barricade tools. They need a transport vehicle. The one we have is very high mileage and not reliable and requires a lot of maintenance. Attached to memorandum containing reasons and quotes that Lieutenant Wills put together. And I was requesting an additional 50,000 for the SRT so they can purchase these items to build a better fund their mission. Because they are a very vital issue in our agency. They're used on every high-risk warrant. And they do a fantastic job, and it's just, we really need to get some of this stuff from them so they can help better do their missions, especially with this less lethal stuff, because a lot of our missions now are turning from entries into situations where they're having to stand outside a barricaded subject and call them out, and we don't have the equipment to do that. But I'm talking smoke or gas or something like that to try to make somebody come out. So we want to do some less lethal stuff to just better try to make everybody safer.
Are these in priority order?
No, I'll give you my priority here in a second.
Okay.
Vehicles, this is top 2 priority. Just tell you that because y'all know our vehicle situation. We've talked about it frequently. We have a lot of vehicles on the road that are high mileage. I checked into the leasing program again, and after sitting down and talking, I don't know. I don't think that is real feasible right now with the situations we're hearing around the state. Some agencies like it, some don't. It just depends on the size of the agency. But I don't know that that's really right for us right now or to really dig into it at this time. But we have a lot of vehicles on the road that are high mileage, which is a very, very safety concern of mine, a very big safety concern of mine. Liability for these guys being out in something that's not safe is not good. But I'm asking for 6 Durangos and one Explorer. The reason I'm asking for an Explorer is we have a canine kennel it's very nice, received on a grant, it's very pricey. And it is designed to fit in an Explorer, so we would need that, and that would save us a tremendous amount of money on that canine aspect. But for 6 Durangos outfitted, striped, the Explorer outfitted, the total was around 431,000. I'd also like to ask, asking an additional 50 to look for the purchase of a vehicle for Amy Farish. She's in a little tiny car and has to haul a lot of equipment, and it's high mileage. And I think with that amount, I can reach out to these Stevens and Northside and things like that and get a quote on a pre-owned certified Chevy warranty vehicle that's used that would fit into our needs for what she does. The vehicle wouldn't have to be outfitted, so it doesn't have to be a police package vehicle. It'd be just a stock vehicle, because she doesn't drive like these guys do out here on calls. But that would help us out tremendously with her for storage, and she has to haul a lot of stuff around crime scene processing, and what was purchased for her a few years ago is just not practical.
Jess,
Yes, sir.
on the striping, is this that black on black striping, or is this standard striping?
Standard gold striping, it's reflective. The striping quotes I've got in here are from a business in Beckley. We were using, I guess they were going to Sissonsville. I would rather keep things closer to home and local. It's just my opinion. If I can spend the money close. The striping that they used in Sissonsville was that flat gold. Well, Signark uses the reflective, which we're big fans of that, because you can see the vehicle at night. You can see what it is. And they can have it done in a couple of days. They're fast. So that's who we've reached out to and got quotes. If y'all seen our animal control vehicles around here, pay attention to them. That Signark done that, and they did a fantastic job. They're located in a Prosperity dip. The following items in the budget, I wanted them to remain the same. Materials and supplies, I don't feel we need an increase. It's the next several here I'm going to read, or I would like to maintain what we had last year. Materials and supplies was 85,000, uniforms was 35,000, K9 8,000, travel 5,000, transportation overtime was 10,000, and animal control overtime is 5,000. And I would like for all those to maintain what they are right now currently, if possible. The animal control situation has worked out great. Our overtime there is not being spent much, because we have 2 animal control gentlemen right now that are doing a fantastic job, and they're on overlapping shifts, so they're not getting called out like we used to when we had 1 or none. So the budget there for the overtime shouldn't be too bad. And then the redundancy of what Mr. Siliberti said is pay. I know you said when we started, Mr. Brenneman, that the insurance is going up. That's a must. We need that. The guys need that. I would like for us to go to work towards a goal of both, or at least some. I asked for an extensive amount. I asked for a raise for all the employees that work under me, but a pretty extensive amount for the deputies because of the job requirements. And we are having a hard time with attrition and retention. We know that. We talked about it. Our last test, we had 5 people show up, 1 qualified after all that to be hired and took a job elsewhere. There are agencies out there actually right now actively recruiting our guys, trying to get them to come and laterally transfer to their agencies. And we're having a hard time fighting that off. We're the largest agency in the county, answer 49% of the law enforcement calls that come to the county, and are like 3rd or 4th from the bottom in the county is the lowest paid. And granted, I know I'm like Anthony said, you got to get up here. I'm up here fighting for my guys. But what we can do is only what we can do. These other agencies may have different budgets. These cities have different budget situations, but I'm just asking for help and to help us maintain what we got, because we want the best of the best. Me and Shannon talk about this all the time. You know, it was like being in the military. It's quality over quantity. And you want good people, and you want those good people to stay to do a good job. Costs a lot of money to outfit somebody and train them and send them to the academy and buy uniforms and do all this stuff and put them in a vehicle. And in a year, they go to the state police or they go to Fayetteville, Road Hill, where they make more money and do a quarter of the work. And I get it. But I just, they want to put this uniform on for it's a pride thing, because this is what you see around Fayette County is the sheriff's department. That's the law enforcement you see representing this county. And I just want us to move forward, try to give them a little bit of a benefit to stay, give them a benefit to be hired here, make it something that's desirable. I really think building a range and doing things like that is going to help us tremendously moving forward in the future when you have all this equipment. We have good recruiting tools now. It's just hard to get people because we are one of the few agencies that have an SRT team. We're one of the few agencies that have a detective bureau, a K-9 unit. We're a squared away agency that I take a lot of pride in and have for many, many, many years. I've been involved in, these, not specifically in budgets, but seeing it every year for 20 some years and knowing what goes on. And I know this is hard and it's hard for you guys. And, a lot of people get frustrated because they don't get what they want, but we can only do what we can do. But I just am asking for help to see what we can do to try to make things better and keep these people here. I know the insurance is going up. That's a must. We gotta have insurance. And like Allison said, it's not as great as federal insurance. It's not. Fortunately, in law enforcement, all the law enforcement agencies in the state of West Virginia use PEIA, so that's not really a big benefit to keep people, because you got a 21, 22-year-old kid, they're not seeing the benefits of that. They're seeing dollar signs.
Right.
They're wanting to make money. If I was that kid, I didn't care. I was single. I didn't need insurance because I was healthy as a horse and nothing was going to happen to me. But when I got married, had kids and things like that, you start realizing that insurance is a must. And we explain it to these kids that, hey, that's going to help, but I want them to see the dollar signs too as an incentive to help them stay, but also understand the benefit of what they're getting on the end of the insurance and things like that. So, you guys have any questions for me?
Well, yes, I see one thing that's a problem for us and the commission. We got 14 deputies on a levy.
Yeah, that's a discussion we've had,
I know.
and we're probably moving towards coming off of that, it sounds like, hopefully in the future.
Oh, yeah, we've already got the plan in place. It's happening. We already took
Yeah.
6 off,
And I understand,
5 to 6 a year. We're taking off
I
11.
can understand, I
6
can
a year.
understand that will help us with levy money as far as equipment, getting that side of it.
It will, and we've budgeted for a certain number of cruisers a year. John really got on that a few years ago and got the list of, the mileage and everything. And that's the reason we incorporated into the levy language this time to be able to buy equipment, because it used to just say salaries and benefits, and that's all it said for law enforcement. And we put buildings and equipment because we can probably call upon the levy to help fund that shooting range also. So, or any detachment or anything like that you might want to stand up in the future.
Absolutely.
So we built that into the levy to give us the flexibility to do for law what we do for fire. And,
We could use that money in a levy to better our equipment for safeties and things like that.
and those are conversations, Ruth is the one who knows the numbers. So as far as, what happens with this process, since you're new, is that she takes a look at what can be done. Now, she has a little less, as you know, leeway when it comes to law enforcement because her son works for you. So it's me that makes those decisions, or the whole group of people, depending on the dollar value. But she is the one who understands the numbers and what is where. And if you have priorities, you don't have to tell us, you can tell her. And then she can, when she makes her recommendations to us and tells us what we can afford where, and we let her know what projects we want funded. Then, we make our decisions based on that. So the more she knows, the better, because she's in the best position to help you get what you need funded, because she knows where the money is. And we also have some opioid funds that, that we just spent on that equipment for you guys. So
I was going to bring it, we greatly appreciate that. That helped us tremendously.
yeah,
We really needed that, and now Mr. Tilburg will tell you our camera system was. We've had issues with it before I even come back, but now it'll all be online and like streamlined with Taser because it's owned by Taser and everything is squared away. So it's gonna help them out tremendously. It'll help us out tremendously. So we appreciate you guys stepping up to help us with that.
And I've been working with the Twig and the park on the cars. I've got an idea on that. I'll talk with the commission on it when we go into budget discussions,
Okay.
and then I'll bring you into it.
You guys keep us posted and I'm easy to work with.
Well, I do want to comment, because I know you both served in the military. This is like a dream sheet to me. You remember our dream sheets?
That's what it is.
This is, and we need to know, this is really the first time. I mean, usually I would find out, you know, what Mike wanted because he would complain about it to Ruth, you know, but not, he didn't come in and just come out and say, I need all of this at once. You know, to some extent, you know, just, you know, it's a credibility issue, like you, but you came in understanding, like, not all of this is gonna be doable at once. But at the same time, now we know what you need. And there are other ways to find you funding if it's not in our budget. So, you know, it's good that you put this together and let us know and just keep that dialogue going because, you know, everybody on this commission is, you know, supports law enforcement. You know, and you're never going to have to convince me that you need these things. It's a matter of how we get them to you and how soon. So, you know, it does help that you've done this homework and stuff, and I'm glad that you're working on that range. That range is one of my goals before I leave this position.
I appreciate
And
that.
that's in less than 2 years.
We've had that as a goal since we were removed from our previous range. And that's been 15 years ago.
And Sheriff Ridley did advocate for that range.
He did.
He did not drop the ball on that at all, but I, you know, it is a priority and we've talked about, and the money just hasn't been there, you know, for that, but we're gonna be focused on finding the funding for that. I mean, that's a priority for me, for sure. I know, and they agreed because we hired somebody to focus on trying to get the funding, so.
Well, thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, you can call me across the street.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks. Good job,
Thank you.
especially for the first time.
Thank you. I mean, I want it done.
No, why?
Minutes?
I edited those and sent them to y'all. I move that we approve the minutes.
Second, got a motion second on the minutes. All those in favor?
I settle, okay, where's I need Michelle for the settlements. Let's skip over that for a second. And Amy, can you text Michelle?
Well, the last thing was that reallocation for ARPA.
Okay. It did not come from the board. I
Oh,
would
but they
prefer-
ratified it.
Huh?
They ratified it at their meeting. I asked Carl
Okay,
about it, and they should have sent us a letter, but we haven't gotten it yet, right? Well, I guess we'll just postpone it till we get the letter, but they said that they did ratify. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you guys.
yeah, I would prefer it come from the board and
The letter's supposed to be on its way, because the board did ratify what basically
Oh,
said.
sorry.
Yeah, what he said.
and we have the document invoices. Yes, no.
There were, and I didn't have any issues or concerns with them. I'll move we approve.
Second, you have motion second to approve the vouchers and invoices. All those in favor?
Aye. I move that we approve payroll for 221.
Second, there's a motion and second on the floor to approve payroll. All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, Michelle, I just want to make sure my eyes are reading this right. The samples estate is finally getting resolved.
Sure. I saw that on there. So great.
Is that a yes or a no?
You're all for it, huh?
Yeah, it wouldn't be on there if she didn't have all the documentation.
Okay, because I mean, this is exciting news.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Hallelujah.
I just wanted to make sure I was reading it right.
Yeah, yeah, if she would have gotten the, I don't know if she does it say.
Because it didn't seem to me like enough time had passed for that to be resolved yet, so.
You must have gotten an affidavit waiver final settlement.
I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna check that. I
Would you, just to be sure, because I mean,
mean, she couldn't put on here unless Larry.
I was happy as a clam to see it on there, is all I'm saying. I'm sure you were happier than that.
Larry would have to sign off on it,
Okay,
but I will check.
well, so you want to double check? Yeah, if you would. And then in the meantime, I'll go ahead and move that we postpone the ARPA fund reallocation to the March 5th meeting.
Second. Been a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we just have that one issue left, but this is that estate that we've had on the agenda like 3 times.
4 times.
Or, yeah, at least, and that she was gonna have to contact a bunch of people and a bunch of things are gonna have to happen. You know, so I just wanna make sure that it is indeed, did you sign these already?
Oh, thank you. I actually didn't see it.
No, but that's, she's just gonna verify that.
And so she did a receipts distribution, disbursements. And
Did she file the inventory, wasn't the inventory missing, and
she did all that.
let Anthony see what you got there, girl?
And so Larry would have had to signed off on it. I didn't look at it.
Anthony, if you need more time to look at that, we could approve the rest of them and move this to the next agenda.
That one is dealing with which one that's been a case problem.
So what happened with the one that where the lady property out of state
Yes.
and
North Carolina.
right in North Carolina, and that she was making a play to get
Where do we
and
have the
or not in the
documentation?
domain, but adverse possession over the land in North Carolina. And Larry thought she had a conflict doing that, as being the executor for the estate. Anthony disagreed. And so there was just a lot she had to do to get this closed. We didn't have any authority over that land anyway. So, but this has been a mess. It has been on the agenda so many times, and
Lisa,
like, if it's finally over.
So
Put on the way through it.
It's been like a boomerang.
Yeah.
Threw it out and it comes back.
Oh, this is a different estate.
I'm leaning toward moving that we approve the rest and leave that one till you have time to look through this.
You need
paperwork,
time,
'cause it
Ann?
was so complicated.
Well, there's a question. She's done the long form, which requires notification of all the heirs, and then they have a set period of time to complain. And I don't see anything in here that documents.
That she served the notice.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't
Not
know if she's had enough time, Anthony, like, that's what made me star this on my list, because I was thinking. This just was on, and this has been on since Greg has been here,
Mhm.
so that
Well,
means,
This is a step in the right direction.
well, hallelujah, but I'm not sure we're here yet. That's the only thing that made me pause.
Made this. by
I'm
itself.
gonna probably, Tim will agree with you. I'm familiar with it. I've listened to it several times throughout the year last year.
Yeah,
And it kind of carried on, and I had steps to follow, and you're saying maybe she hasn't completed the last step.
well, we don't have proof that she's given the
Right.
notice,
We gave notice. I had to go back. and check.
so you guys gave the notice,
We sent
okay.
it out and hold it for 10 days.
okay.
And that 10 days is come and gone.
Yes, and one person called and just asked, but they didn't get theirs, and I had the correct address, so they said it would probably come in a few days, and I told them that they had the ability to object to it if they needed to.
Okay.
And she said no, she was just wondering how come she hadn't received it.
Everybody else got theirs.
But you have no objections?
No concern, so everything now is clean as far as you're concerned,
Yes, ma'am.
We could approve.
satisfied? Or do you want time to look at it? I mean, it's not gonna hurt anything if you take another
here's
couple
the
weeks.
thing. I don't think it's my place to review this to make sure it's been done correctly.
It's,
It is her responsibility to prepare this, serve it on the heirs, and if the heirs don't like what's in here, then the heirs can complain about it.
do they have a period of time by law to complain?
10 days.
10 days.
Has the 10 days
Yes.
passed?
It
Yeah,
has.
sure.
Well,
And
we can put it to bed.
basically, the Well, actually, that would be dealt with, that property in North Carolina would be dealt with in North Carolina.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so never mind.
Okay, all right, I move that we approve all the settlements as presented.
I second it.
Okay, we've got a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
You like it, we already stand for agree.
All right, is that it? I think that's it.
Make a motion to. Meeting.
Adjourn.
Adjourn?
Sure, well, actually.
Yeah, you're-
Recess.
It's a special.
It's a second
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
Okay, second.
We did have somebody ask about that compost thing.